Okay, so I welcome you all to the Advanced Python workshop, 5 days workshop. So the first day is today, as you all know, and we are going to continue this workshop up to Friday, and we will be discussing about various topics under like advanced topics under Python programming language. So today, as you were already informed, we are going to discuss about the basic Python programming, and also you are going to get a small quizzes from the section that we are going to cover today. So that would be your kind of a tutorial for today, and tomorrow we are going to walk you through the major topics of like we are going to discuss about very important topic under Python modules. And after discussing Python modules, we are going to discuss about very important and useful set of Python modules: Matplotlib, NumPy, Pandas, and OpenCV. So simply what we are doing here is to get the introduction to modules, and then first like go through the modules NumPy and Matplotlib, and learn how we can handle data, we can pre-process data, how we can like visualize data. So that would be the uh, objective of the second day. And thereafter, we are going to move through the day 3, where we are going to cover image processing, and there's a with OpenCV Python module. And fourth day, we are going to discuss about machine learning. And fifth day, we are going to discuss about web development, web framework development using Flask. And we are going to integrate the machine learning and whatever the concepts that we learned in the previous 4 days in the day 5, and create a website, right? Okay, so this is the plan, and I'm Takshila Tilaganayaka. So I will be conducting your session from today onwards, and I will briefly introduce you the basic information about me. And I'm currently following my MPhil degree, and also I'm conducting lots of uh, workshops, training programs, and lectures related to machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, and Python related fields in several institutes worldwide, right? And actually, that's pretty much about me. So you can search about me and find in the LinkedIn and also YouTube and Facebook. So my details are there. So if you want to get to know about me more, you can search on these platforms and get to know about me, right? So I think, yeah. Um, yes, so thereafter, a brief introduction on the course that we are going to cover, right? Now, this is an interactive session, right? So you should feel free to ask questions, right? So don't worry for anything, right? Just feel free to ask question. You can unmute yourself and ask questions if there is any question. And also you can use the chat. So I'm quite happy to uh, like stop what I'm doing and answer your questions, right? So that's what I wanted. Like, actually, I want to make this an interactive session, right, where you all can learn something, right? Other than that, if I continue this, and if you can't understand anything, that's not useful, right? So what useful is, you need to understand everything that I'm discussing here, right? So therefore, please feel free to ask any questions if you have anything, right? So I will interrupt, and I will explain and get your concerns clarified. And the other thing is that for each day, the recorded video of the each session will be provided to you at the same day, right? So within few hours, you are going to get the recorded video of the session, and you will receive it through the email, and you can revisit the things and all the materials. Now, I think you have got all the materials, the Google link for the materials. So it includes all the Python codes, the lecture slides, and everything that we are going to discuss in this uh, workshop, right? So have you installed? I think you got the instruction to install the development environment Anaconda Navigator. Did you get the introductions? I mean, the sample video on how to set up Anaconda in your computer. Okay, very good. So I think you have followed that video and installed the Jupyter Notebook, and you have configured how to use the Jupyter Notebook. So that would be the development environment we are using for our implementation. So I think now you are familiar with the Jupyter Notebook, and I think that you can implement a simple code, right, in a Jupyter Notebook.
My computer operating system doesn't support the Anaconda link that I've received.
Yeah. So which one you are using? I mean, the operating system.
It's Windows 7.
Windows 7. Okay. Right. So do you have any other alternative to code in Python?
I don't, as of now, like right now, I don't have. Maybe for tomorrow, I can arrange some.
Yeah, it's fine. Now what you can do is you can if it not supported, what you can simply do is you can download the normal Python or PyCharm or anything, but the normal Python idle would be quite fine.
Yeah, I have idle.
Then it's fine. You can use that one.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Google Colab also you can use Google Colab, but it's a bit annoying when it comes to upload the files and upload the data set into Google Colab. But other than that, Google Colab is a good option. Right. Anyway, now let us then walk through the things that we are going to do in this workshop so quickly. And this workshop is like called the Advanced Python Workshop, Advanced Python 5 days workshop. So the objective is to get you familiarized in the fields of like image processing, data science, not exactly data science, but image processing and data handling, data pre-processing, data visualization, and image processing and web development, right? So those are the major topics that we are going to cover in this workshop, right? So Python, using Python, we will be doing image processing, we will be doing data handling and data visualization, and also machine learning and web development, right? So that's why we call this advanced Python. So this is not a beginner's Python course, right? So that we assume that you have the beginner's knowledge, I mean the basic knowledge on programming, not in Python, but I assume that you all have a programming background. That can be Java, C++, C, or any other language. So we assume that you have a basic knowledge on programming. So with that, only we are going to continue this in the intermediate level, right? So the Python programming language is the language that we are going to use, the programming language that we are going to use in this workshop. And the Jupyter Notebook is the official kind of the development environment. But if you are like familiar in using Python idle or PyCharm or Visual Studio Code, anything is fine. But we use Jupyter Notebook since like data science, these machine learning related fields, Jupyter Notebook is a very sophisticated development environment for that. So that's why we are using it. We have a question. Let's see. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I think you can update later. Anaconda, you can update it later, but it's fine. Now, someone says that there is a issue with the voice. Is it same for everyone? Yeah, I think then Shikhar, it's something from your side. I think it's an issue with your internet issue. Since others don't have it, I think since others don't experience that thing, I think it's something with your internet connection. Those things happens, but anyway, you are getting the, if you miss something, you are getting the recorded video, so you can watch it later as well. But I strongly recommend you to participate the live sessions. So participating live session is the most efficient way of learning, right? Other than watching the video later, right? And this is the programming language, and this is the development environment we are using. And we use like OpenCV, scikit-learn, NumPy, Matplotlib, and Pandas. These modules, or we call like modules, is something called library in other programming languages, right? So these are the libraries that we are using in this in our workshop. And other than that, we use Flask for web development. But major libraries are OpenCV, scikit-learn, Pandas, Matplotlib, and NumPy. So OpenCV is the library that we are going to use for image processing task. Scikit-learn is the library or the module that we are going to use with Python for machine learning implementations. And NumPy and Matplotlib, NumPy is a very useful library when it comes to matrix operations, multi-dimension array operations. So in order to perform multi-dimension array operations, we use NumPy. And Matplotlib is the library that we are going to use for visualization purposes like plotting graphs and data visualization. Those kind of applications we use Matplotlib. And to deal with data sets, right? Deal with data sets, we use the Pandas module. So these are the main modules or the libraries that we are going to use in our workshop, right? So some of them are already available in Jupyter Notebook. That means some of them are coming as inbuilt libraries for Jupyter Notebook, but some of them we need to install it separately. I will let you know how we can install a library to Anaconda separately. I mean, how to install a third-party library. I will explain it later, right? And these are the references you can use for this workshop, right? I will probably send it to you this, I mean, this set of slides as an email, right? So you can get the references, the reference books that we are going to use for these implementations, I mean, our workshop, right? Okay, so I think you are comfortable with the overview of the workshop. And if you have any other doubt, please feel free to ask. So I'm quite happy to answer if you have any doubt uh, regarding the content or anything that we are going to cover, right? As I mentioned at the start, this is the plan, right? So day one, that means today we are going to discuss about Python basics, and you are going to get a small set of quizzes from Python programming basics. And thereafter, second day, we are going to move to a topic called data handling and data pre-processing and data visualization with Matplotlib, NumPy, and Pandas. And third day, the image processing with OpenCV, and the fourth day, machine learning. We are going to discuss about machine learning with scikit-learn algorithm. And then fifth day, we discuss about Python web framework development with Flask module, and we build a character recognition web application by combining the day 4 and day 5. The things that we are going to learn in day 4 and day 5, we combine the things and we create a nice web application using Flask with machine learning, right? Web application for character recognition, right? So that would be the content that we are covering in this 5 days workshop, right? Okay, so any question, anything to be clarified, anything I missed that you need to know before going on to the uh, workshop content? Anything from your side? Any doubt? Any concern?
I'm not able to open the files that we have received. Day
Uh,
one, day two, day four. They are in IPYN some format.
yeah,
Yeah, those files.
yeah. So in order to open this, you need to have the what I call, I mean, the Jupyter notebook, right? So these
How do I?
files can be opened in Jupyter notebook, but there's an alternative. What you can do, since you don't have the Jupyter notebook installed in your computer, what you can do is you can use the Google Colab, right? Go to Google Colab, and so this can be like if you have a Google account, it can be simply accessed, right, without any doubt,
Oh,
right? So then you can upload you can upload those files here simply. I mean, this is for uh, those who are not having the uh, those who are not having the uh, Jupyter notebook in your computer, right? So if you want some file, okay, let's say this one, you can upload it here, right? So you can open it, the file, you can open it, right? Right?
okay.
Yeah. Um, yes. So we had a question. Okay.
I have a Pydroid 3 app in my mobile, Android mobile. I tried using from it, but it is throwing me errors on start and exit functions.
What do you mean? The collab? Is it?
No, no. Um,
I mean, you have.
Pydroid 3 ID on Android app.
Okay. Yes. So what's the issue?
So it is throwing me an error on start and the exit functions. Let me check into it
So did you try?
on line number
Yeah. Is uh, so did you try this kind of a small code? Just try a small code available as in the uh, like creating two variables and printing them. Try to do that. Whether you are check whether you are getting the errors the same error.
Okay, let me try and
Okay, sure.
come back.
Thanks. Right. So since you don't have doubts here, let me start the session. Right. Let me start the session. So so I'm in uh, this file, the part one, right? The Python tutorial part one. This is the file that I'm referring, right? And so let me maximize the screen, right? So let me maximize the screen. So I think you have downloaded it and the files are with you, right? So let me then, yeah. So let me maximize the screen. What I wanted to show you is that I'm in the Python tutorial part one, right? Okay. So we are going to discuss about Python programming language, the basics, the implementation, the syntax of Python programming language. But before going on to that, I know that all of you, I assume that all of you have from a programming background. That means you have done a programming language prior, right? Any programming language, can be C, C++, Java, or any programming language. So I'm assuming that you have a basic programming knowledge, not in Python, but uh, actually what I mean, like you should know what's a variable, what is decision making, what is a loop, what is a function, right? So those kind of things, the basic programming concept, if you are familiar with that, that's the level that I'm going to start with. So what I'm going to do is, assuming though you have that knowledge, I'm going to walk you through the Python programming basics. So then you will understand, okay, how to implement a variable in Python, how to declare a variable in Python, how to implement loops in Python, how to make decision in Python, how to implement functions in Python, likewise. Understood? Okay. So before going on to that, what's a programming language is, right? A programming language is a language like what we are, I mean, our native languages, right? So English, Hindi, right? Urdu, Tamil, right? Any kind of a language similar, right? So those languages are used to communicate, right? Communicate, right? um, give me a second. Right. So what I was discussing, right? So those languages that we use to communicate, right? So other languages that we speak, right? So those used to communicate. But a programming language is a similar language, but this language is used to communicate with computers or devices or any kind of electronic devices or machines, right? So when we want to get something done by a machine, that can be a computer, that can be a mobile phone, any kind of electronic device. So if we want to get something done from a computer, so we had to communicate with that computer or that electronic device, right? But there's a small issue that a computer cannot understand any other language like English, Hindi, Tamil. No, it cannot understand any kind of a language that we speak or we use, right? Therefore, what we have to do, we have to communicate with the computer uh, with a language that the computer can understand, right? So computers can understand only binary, right? Values. So binary code, 1 and 0, high voltages, low voltages, right? So any electronic device can be a computer, can be a mobile, right? So we can see nice little screens, nice little softwares, right? And we use those softwares for like several applications, programming, to watch movies, right? So to surf internet. So we use those softwares and everything, but still if you go to the basics, the computer is implemented on ones and zeros. It can only understand high voltages, low voltages, right? So the computers can only understand binary. So what we do is we are going to write something, right, from a language that we can understand, not like Hindi or not like Tamil, but we write a set of instructions. What I mean by a set of instruction, that we want to get something done from a computer. Therefore, we have to provide some instructions, some orders to the computer, right? Therefore, what we do, we write set of instruction, set of orders, right? But we don't use our language, our native languages, but what we use is a programming language. So programming language is a language, same, I mean, general language, but it has some rules, it has some structure, it has some standards, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to follow those rules, those standards, and those structure, and we are going to write set of instructions. So what will happen? Whatever thing that we wrote will be translated into a binary code. So that's done something called translator, and this is also known as a compiler or an interpreter as well, right? It's known as a compiler or an interpreter as well. Now we have two programming languages, right? So compiling programming languages and interpreter programming languages. So both are doing this translation, but compiler, like what are the compiler languages? C, C++. So those are compiling language. But what it means? Now it's going to read the whole code that you have written and check for errors, check for syntax errors, check for runtime errors, right? And check for syntax errors and check all the errors. And then if the code is perfect, if the code is not giving any kind of errors, it will execute the code, right? But interpreter, no, it's not going to do it like that. It's not going to read the whole code, and if there is no any errors, it's not going to run it. What it does is it's going to run the code segment by segment, or else we can say line by line, but not always line by line. So we can say code segment by segment, right? So it's going to execute the first segment, done. So if there is no any errors, execute the first code segment, done. Then come to the next code segment. If there is no any errors, execute that. Likewise, so part by part will be executed in interpreter programming languages, right? Compiler, read the whole programming, the whole code, right? But interpreters, no, it's going to execute the code segment by segment. So Python is an interpreter programming language, right? Python is an interpreted programming language. So Python, what we use is we use for this purpose or get something done from the computer or the machine or a machine, right? So we write something, set of instructions in a code, in a program, and we run it. What happens, the translator translate it to a binary code and we get something done from the computer. That's what we simply do. And Python is a general purpose in the sense that we can use Python for lots of applications. And it's an interpreted programming language. And it's also, it has the property of interactive programming. That means you can, you can run the codes live, right? So line by line, you can enter and run. So that's the interactive, that's what you call the interactive programming language. For example, now what it means by interactive, if I show you, this is what it means by interactive. So if I open the Python idle, right? So, right. So this is, right. See, I can write it like this, right? Interactively, I can code in Python line by line. I can enter, and interactive programming can be done in Python. So that's what you mean by interactive, right? And it also supports object-oriented programming, right? Python also supports object-oriented programming, and it's not a fully OOP programming language, not fully OOP. That means not like Java, but it's like pretty much like C++. Both the procedural programming as well as the OOP is there. Both are there, right? Not only the sequential programming, the procedural programming is also there, and it also supports object-oriented programming, right? And it says a high-level programming language. What do you mean by high-level programming language? That it's quite easy for the user, right? The Python is quite easy to implement, but there's a lots of process going inside Python to convert it to a binary code, right? But it's quite easy to use for a code or a developer, right? And invented in 1990, right? And Python, some of the parts of the Python are like, if you go to the bottom set of codes, there are some C++ codes are also there. So Python is a programming language built top of C++ and C, right? Some of the Python implementations are done using C and C++. So this is not like a core language, but somewhat core, but some C++ implementations are also used in Python in a very bottom level, right? Got it? So what's the most important thing when it comes to Python is that Python, like we have to check for the applications, right? Now, we have hundreds of programming languages in the world, right? So we have A, we have B, we have C, we have D. Have you heard about those programming languages, right? A, B, we know C, but A and B are also there. D, another programming language, right? Have you seen? Have you heard? Ruby, Pascal, right? So hundreds of programming languages are there, but we are only focusing on very few like C, C++, Java, right? Go, right? And Python, right? So we have a set of programming languages like common and generally used, right? But we have hundreds of programming languages. So it's not required to learn all the programming languages like Java. Okay, I want to learn Java. I want to learn C. I want to learn C++. I want to learn like Go. I want to learn Python. Everything. No, not required. It's dependent on the application that we are going to like work with, right? All the programming languages are application dependent, right? Application dependent, right? What I mean by application dependent, uh, uh, right? So Java is mostly a software-based programming language, right? So it's used for web application development, mobile application development, PC application development, backend development, right? So software-based implementations, we use Java. And do you know C, C++? What are the applications of C and C++? Any idea? Yes? Okay, games, others?
Desktop applications.
Yes, sorry.
Desktop applications.
Yes. Any other? Yeah, graphic designing, develop languages, yes. So some operating systems are also, some of the operating systems use like uh, uh, C and C++, right? So lots of applications, but major applications of C and C++ are hardware programming, right? Microcontroller, embedded systems, right? So your washing machines, your microwave oven, your kind of all the electronic, the routers, right? So all these electronic devices, right? So they are programmed, the microcontroller inside those hardware, right? Programmed using C or C++, most of them, right? So hardware programming, uh, robotics, we use C++. So hardware based implementations, we use C and C++ mostly. What you told was also some applications, right? So when it comes to Python, yeah, similarly, we have some applications of Python, right? So Python is the well-known programming language for artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, neural network implementations, image processing, right? So Python is the number one language that we can use for AI, machine learning, deep learning, image processing, and also some parts of the data science as well. And Python is used in robot operating system, ROS, right? And Python is also used for web framework development. Web framework development in the sense like web backend development, right? So that's why we are learning Python in this workshop. Our main focus is about like something related to image processing, machine learning, right? Data. So that's why we are using Python here, right? So Python is a very useful library when it comes to these topics, right? So that's why we are trying to learn. Now keep that thing in mind. If you want like learn new programming language, you should have application, right? So if you are moving on to, okay, let's say software development, better to learn Java, right? If you are trying to move on to artificial intelligence, better to use Python. Likewise, so application dependent, always it is application dependent, right? So keep that thing in mind. And yeah, so Python is a very famous and a commonly used language today, right? And like if you are keen to move to AI, image processing, deep learning, neural networks, data science, right? So very demanded field now as well as more in future, right? It will be more demanding in the future, demanded in the future, right? So there are lots of freelancing opportunities. There are lots of employment opportunities, right? Lots of jobs are there, as well as lots of freelancing opportunities are also there now. Graphic designing, web development, mobile application development, they are common. Everyone does it, right? Everyone does those developments, right? But when it comes to machine learning, data science, these kind of things, very few, right? Very few experts are in the field. So it's a good chance for you all if you are trying to move on to AI, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, image processing. It's a good chance for you all. Since sometimes now, if you go to Upwork, right, the Upwork freelancing platform, there are some jobs which pay you $100 per hour. $100 per hour, but that's bit like you can apply to those freelance, I mean those jobs like with 2 3 4 or 4 years experience, right? But anyway, there are lots of freelancing opportunities as well as employment opportunities. So it's better to move to these kind of fields and like do some projects in data science, AI, machine learning, deep learning kind of things, right? Okay, so I will provide you more details in the coming days, right? So I just gave you an introduction. So now we will move on to quickly to the basics of Python, and we got to know about Python. We will get to know about Python, and we will implement few codes
Excuse
in
me.
Python. Yes.
What is the difference between C and C++? Do we have to learn both, or what is it?
No, actually, C is the like now you know this, right? If you have followed the programming language, you know this. Okay, so if you have I, right? So I plus plus,
Yeah.
that means, yeah, I becomes 11. So C plus plus is the same idea. Like it's kind of a improved version of C, right? For example, I
Okay.
can tell you one example in C, right? So in C programming language does not support object-oriented programming, right? But C++ support OOP. So if you take C++, all the things that we implemented in C will be there in C++ as well, plus the OOP concepts, right? So that's the main
Okay.
difference between C and C++,
Okay. Thank you.
right? So Python, if you come to Python, variables. Now, what do you mean by a variable? Variable is a memory location where we can store values, right? Where we can store values, right? So if you want to save a variable or a name, a string, a number, right? Anything. If you want to store anything in your program, you have to use a variable, right? So when it comes to variables, Python has several types of variables. There are types of variables available, right? Numbers, strings, lists, tuples, and dictionaries, right? So these three we will discuss about them separately, but these two now we will discuss the Python variables, the numbers, what do you mean by numbers and what do you mean by strings, right? So these are some of variable types available in Python. So I will go through these three in detail in the next section of today, right? But I will discuss about these things, right? So then what do you mean by a identifier? So you know a variable. Variable is simply a memory location, kind of a memory, where we can save uh, kind of information, right? It can be a number, it can be a string, it can be an array, it can be an image, it can be a video, anything, right? In Python, a memory location, it can hold anything. It can be a number, it can be a string, it can be a video, it can be an image, anything, an array. That's called a variable, right? So what do you mean by a identifier then? Identifier is a name, a user defined name. So this is the most important thing. User defined name, that we are going to give the name, right? And user defined name given for a variable, a function, a class, or a module. Now if you are not familiar with classes, modules, anything, don't worry, right? For now, let's say, okay, you are familiar with these things: variable, function, class. So simply I can say any name that you are going to like use as a user defined name in a code, in a Python code or any other programming language, it's called an identifier, right? For variables also, we give user defined names, right? So that's a variable, that's identifier. So functions also we give a user defined name. For classes also we give a user defined name. Any user defined name used in your program is called a Python identifier, right? So there are the standard rules are also applied here, right? So you can't include punctuation marks like at dollar mark and this percentage mark within identifiers, right? So you can't include those things, right, within identifiers, right? And also Python uh, case sensitive, right? So simple and capital letters are considered differently. So case sensitive programming language, as well as you can, for if you want to give a user defined name, identify in other words, you can start with capital letters or simple letters, but you can't start with the number. You can't start with the number, but you have to, if you like eagerly want to uh, start the variable with a number, you have to put the underscore. That means now what I discussed, okay, so let's say this is a variable in Python, right? So I'm going, the user, that means me, I'm going to myself define a variable name. So this is identifier va, right? And I'm going to assign 10 here, right? So this is the user defined variable that I created, and this is the value that I assigned, right? You can do it like this, or you can use any simple or uppercase or lowercase name, it's fine. But unfortunately, you can't have like this kind of, you can't include numbers as the first character, but you can include numbers in the middle, right? So this will work, right? This will work. It's fine, but you can't do it. You can include a number anywhere, but the start, you can't do it, right? But if you want to do that, you have to put the underscore, and then you can create it like this, right? And also the other important thing, you can't include any punctuation marks like this in between, right? You can't do this, right? Other than that, all the things can be done, right? And reserved words, so reserved words are simply called the keywords available in the programming language, so in Python, these are the main keywords. So what do you mean by a keyword? This has a separate meaning, right? This has a separate meaning. That means these keywords are given a different meaning and a different functionality from the programming language, right? So you can't use them as identifiers. You can't use them as user defined identifiers, right? Understood? So that's what you call reserved words or keywords, right? Okay, so this is example where we have created two variables, value 1 equal 10, value 2 equal 20.5. So you can print them like this and get the output, right? Now, if you are new to Python, you may be wondering, okay, so is this a normal code? What we have seen, like if you have used C or C++, standard code should be something like this, isn't it? Right? Using namespace std. I'm writing a code in C++. This is quite similar to Java as well, right? Or C as well. You should have a main function, isn't it? You should have a main function. And inside the main function, you have to do everything, right? Like if you want to create a variable like this, okay, this is how we are going to do it. And if we are going to create this kind of a variable, that should be a float variable, isn't it? Right? So this is what you usually do in other programming languages, right? In other programming languages. But in Python, no, it's not like that. No need to have a main function, right? No need to have a main function. And in order to implement a simple code, no need of having any libraries or any header files, right? So usually in other programming languages, you have like always include some header files for simple programs as well. But in Python, no need to include header files or libraries for simple implementations. But later we will include, but in simple codes, no need, right? No need to have a main, right? And also, what's the other important thing? No need to have a terminator. What mean a terminator? A statement terminator. So the semicolon is known as the statement terminator. What I mean by statement terminator, if you put a semicolon, that means that line or that set of, I mean that code segment, sorry, that instruction is like terminated over the end of the instruction. But here, then you can write it like this, right? The next one. So anyway, what I wanted to highlight here is that you no need to have semicolons, right? Or no need to have a main function when it comes to Python. No, right? Simply you can implement a code like this. So if you take a new code, let me show you. Okay, I'm going to take here. I'm going to take a new code called test, let's say. Okay, right? So you can create a code like this. No need to have a kind of any uh, main function statement terminators. No, nothing. Just write the code simply like this, so it will work. Sorry. Right. Got it? So that's how we are going to do it. Understood, right? So this is something that I showed you like using any other programming language, right? Okay, let me change it to a markdown, right? Okay. So then the important thing now, no data types in Python. When you create identifiers, when you create variables, no need to mention the data type. A Python variable, that's the power of a Python variable. A Python variable can hold anything, simply anything. What I mean by anything, not everything, but yeah, kind of anything, right? So it can hold numbers, integers, floats, characters, strings, arrays, files, images, videos, neural networks, machine learning algorithms, anything, right? So Python variables simply can hold anything, right? So therefore, no need to mention the data type of it, right? No need to mention the data type of it. Got it? Keep that idea in the mind, right? And so this is called, these two are not considered as a integer and a float, but these two are considered as numbers, simply numbers. There's no any data type called integer, or there's no any other data type called uh, float or double. No, if that's a number, that's a number. No integer, no float, just a number, right? So this is how we are going to simply uh, yes, any issue? Yeah. And the other thing is, the other type of, the second type of variables, right, is strings, right? So in Python, right, in Python, now both of these two are considered as strings. This is not a character and this is not a string. Both of them are considered as strings. Understood? So both of them are considered as strings, right? So simply, now you can use either single inverted commas, right? You can use either single inverted commas or double inverted commas. Anything is fine, right? Single inverted commas or double inverted commas. It simply refers to a string, right? So no matter whether that string has a single character is also considered as a string, right? Understood? Got it? Right? Nothing called characters and nothing called string, like no difference between characters and strings. A character, it can be a single uh, character, a single letter, it is considered as a string, right? And in order to define a string, you can either use single inverted commas or double inverted commas, right? So now this is why I told you this is a high level programming language. High level in the sense this is quite easy for the user, right? No need to have data types, no need to have curly brackets, no need to have semicolons, right? So this makes our life easy. That means this is a high level programming language, but I'm not recommending Python as a beginner's language, right? So if you learn this as your best, I mean the first programming language, right? This is quite easy for you. But if you go with, I mean, if you start with C, C++, then you are going to like go Java, you are going to get the fundamentals, right? Here, no fundamental, I mean, fundamentals are there, but this is quite easy for you. But if you go through C, C++, and then come to Python, then it's quite, I think, good, according to my point of view, right? Anyway, now, so Python print simply adds a, can you see? If you print multiple values using the print command, so this is the print function, a standard function available in Python called print. So in print, when you provide the comma, that simply prints it by keeping a space, right? Keeps a space and print it, right? And here, if you want like, okay, can you see? Now, when you put comma and give another variable, it simply simply keeps a space in between, right? And similarly, if you don't want this default space as the separator when you are printing multiple values, you can provide an argument called separate, and you provide, okay, a new line. That means separate each value by a new line, right? Separate each value by a new line. So here also you can have any kind of a separator. Now I have given like what, double dash as the separator, right? So what it simply does is it keeps a separator, but the separator in this case is a double dash. So you can give a customized separator, but the default separator, when you print multiple values, the default separator is the space, right? Is the space, right? Got it? Right. So understood. So any issue, anything. Now what I did was here is I just discussed about the basics of numbers and strings, right? So any issue from your side, any doubt from your side? Okay, great. So now if you have any doubt, please feel free to ask, right? Okay, so now we will discuss about strings a bit in detail, right? So a string actually can be considered as an array, right? Considered as an array, like a character array, right? String can be considered as a character array. So let me define a string called hello world. Right? Let me define a string called hello world. So I have the hello world assigned here, my string, right? So my string now holds the hello world, but actually it's like it's actually something like this kind of uh, array, right? It's something like this kind of array, right? So where the element 0 is H, the element 1 is E, the element 2 is L, the element 3 is L, the element 4 is likewise, right? So what I have done here, simply, I have first print the whole string. So what you can see, okay, this is what you can see here, right? So it prints the whole string. So if you print only the first element, str0, that means it prints H, right? And what this means, the third one, my string 2 to 5. The images are not loading. You are using are you using the Jupyter? I mean the Google, sorry, the Google Colab.
No, I'm using Jupyter Notebook.
Then the images should be there.
Now the image is not loading.
Anyway, let me share the HTML version with you, right? The HTML version of this one. Then you can. So I will share the HTML version of this file, so you can have the images in there as well. So you can get it from the chat, right? So you can get it from the chat of this Zoom software, right? So I just shared the file with you, a HTML version of this one. So HTML version probably contain everything, right? So you can get it from here. Okay, so what this means, 2 to 5. So it simply means what? Go from 2 to, right? Go from 2 to 5, right? So here now there's a very important thing when it comes to Python. No matter where, but if you have provided the upper limit, now this is like asking, okay, 2 to 5. So the 5 will be the upper limit, right? So the upper limit always will be 1 less than the given value. What I mean, I think it's better if I provide the value like this, let's say 2 to 7, let's say, right? So now you can see this is the output. This is the third output, right? The output of this one, right? So what it means simply, what it means 2 to 6 actually, right? So what, no matter where the upper limit is given in Python, that will be 1 less than the given value, right? So it's I like 2 to 7, but not taking 7, right? So this is something like very special in Python. The upper limit that we are going to provide will be taken like 1 less than that value, right? So it's actually going from 2 to 6. Understood? So now what this means, can you understand then? So we have mentioned the starting value, but we haven't mentioned the ending value. Then what happens? The starting value is mentioned, but the ending value is not mentioned. Then what happens?
It will go the last correct.
Yes, yes, exactly. Now it's go. I mean, if you don't have, if you don't mention the ending value or the upper limit, that means the whole array. So what happens? Start from 2 and go up to end, right? So starting from 2, go up to end. That's what it simply does here, right? So 2 to end. So then can you then like, okay, so here what's the difference? Now we haven't mentioned the starting value. So when the starting value is not mentioned, what happened? That's starting from 0 and go up to 4, 5. So this one I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. Right. So if you like don't mention both the start and end, that again means the whole array, right? If you don't mention the starting and the ending, that means the whole array. Right?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, we are not mentioning. We are mentioning here five, any fifth position of the string.
Yeah.
So it means last position of the string will be included in the string.
Not included actually. Now, for example, if you provide 7 here, right? So it's like, since the first, I mean, the starting value is not mentioned, that will be like 0. So 0 to 7, that means 0 to 6 actually, right? So if you print
Sir,
this,
please run the command.
yeah. So it
Okay.
prints hello W. That means only go up to 6, right? So
So
the upper,
last will be excluded.
yeah. So the upper value, that the limit you are going to give, will be taken like 1 less than the given value always,
Okay, thank you, sir.
right? So then this is bit important, right? So -1, right? So if you mention -1, what that means, that it's going to start the indexing from the other side. That means, okay, -1 will be the last one, -2 will be this one, right? -3 will be this one. So if you use minus indexing, right, that refers like, I mean, that's starting from the end of the string. So -1 refers to the last one. -2 refers to the last, I mean, the second last, right? -3, the second, third last, right? Likewise. Understood? So if you use minus indexing, that refers, that start from the, right, the last, I mean, the end, right? So for example, now here what happens, right? So 5 to -2, that means what? 5 to -2 is simply like it's go, okay, 5 here to -2. -2 is like coming to here. So WOR, see, 5 to -2. So 5 to -2. I told you that the upper limit will be always 1 less than the given value. So it will be -3 actually, right? Understood? Got it? So any question, please ask, right? Okay, so then we are going to discuss quickly about Python input. That means how we can take a user input from the keyboard uh, to the Python code, to inside the Python code. The code that we are going to, the command or the function that we are going to use is input. So this is the function. So what input does, simply if you run this one, so now it creates us a entry field, right? So that means the code is now post. The code is now post, and it waits until we enter a value, right? It waits until we enter a value. So what we can do is we can enter a value and press enter. So what happens? Whatever the value that we are going to provide here will be going here, and that is printed here. That is printed here. Understood? So we entered 10 here and 10 assigned to the value, and that value is printed here, right? So that's how we are going to simply use the input, right? That's how we are going to simply use the input, right? And the other way is that you can give a message to the user, right? So you can give a message inside the input function, right? So you can pass a parameter to the input function like a message. So what happens? A string, right? You can pass a message like a string to the input function. So what happens? Now it shows, okay, enter value for x. So whatever the string that you have provided here is shown here, right? So it's kind of like a guidance for the user. So we can provide the message to the user. So the entry box won't be appearing, just appearing, but it shows a message and it gives the guidance to the user. So we can give a message to the user like this, right? The functionality is the same, but only the difference is that it shows a message, right? And okay, so I have a small code here, right? So I'm going to take two inputs, one input to the x and the other input to the y, right? And I print x separately and I print y separately and I print the addition, right? So if you run this code simply, so what's the expected output? What do you think? What's the expected output? Yes, any idea? What's the expected output? Ten, 20, 30, right? 10, 20, 30. So we enter x to 10, sorry, 10 to x, we enter 20 to y, and then we print the addition here, right? So that's what we simply trying to do here, right? But unfortunately, that's not, yeah, the addition would be 30, right? The addition should be 30, but unfortunately, that's not the addition that you are getting here, right? So what you will get here is simply like, yeah. So then someone mention why, I mean, what's the reason for this? Why you are getting like 10 to 20? Yes, exactly. So this is, right? This is string addition. Yes, it's string addition or concatenation, right? So that means what we can conclude is that the Python input function take whatever the value that you are going to input as a string, right? So here it says Python input function returns the user keyboard input as a string. So no matter what you are going to enter, it will be converted to a string, and right. So for example, if you enter something like this, now you can see it's kind of an IP address, right? So I mean, it's added as a string, right? Simply added as a string, right? Therefore, what we can do now, we can do a casting here, right? If you want to take an integer, you can do a casting like this. What you can do, you can take a x, you can take a y, right? and you can convert it to a desired data type like using casting, a cast function. So this simply converts x into integer, y into another integer, right? So this will overcome the issue, right? This will overcome the issue. Fine, right? So this overcomes the issue, and what it simply does here is it converts the entered numbers, right? So takes as a string. Here also it takes as a string, and convert it to integer and assign the same value. So x will be converted to a string and assigned into x. Y will be converting it to a integer and assign it to y. Right? That's what it does. But one issue is there. Right? So this kind of things won't be happen, right? So if you now enter a float value, right? If you now enter a float value, that will simply like give you an error, since the this kind of a string cannot be directly converted into a integer, right? So don't think that it's going to round off the value. It's going to round off the value and take it. Unfortunately, in Python, it's not happening, right? So the int casting cannot convert a float. Yeah, it can convert a float, but this is not a float, right? This is not a float. This is a string, right? So this will work, right? If you do it like this, it works. Right? It converts it to a string. But here, what happens? It is like giving a string, this kind of a string, and we ask it to convert it to an integer. No, it won't happen. It won't be uh, done, right? It can do like this kind of float value to integer can be done, but a string to a integer, a string in a form of float cannot be converted to a integer. So that's the issue. Therefore, the option is that we have a very powerful and a sophisticated function called eval, right? We have a sophisticated function called eval. So what eval does, right? What this eval does simply, no matter what's the base, so that means it can be a float, it can be anything. It will convert it to a whatever the data type. There's a question: is there any break during the session? No, but you can take a break. You can have a snack, you can have a drink. Yeah, you can do it, but no any official break during the session. Right? Yeah, you can convert it to int, but in this kind of situations, it fails, right? So eval, the other thing about eval is that right? The other thing is about eval is a very powerful thing, right? That means it does like not only the conversion, right? But it can evaluate this kind of a function given as well. See? So it's a very powerful function eval, right? What's the reason now? You can like give expression here, right? You can provide the expression as well. So the expression can be converted into a, what the eval does, it's not doing the casting, right? So don't think that the eval is always doing integer to like a string to integer, string to float. Not always. What it does is it does the evaluation. So you can give an expression even. You can give an expression in like a equation form. So the eval can solve that as well. Right? For example, the eval is very powerful. What I mean, right? So if you give something like this as a string, let's say 10 into 2 plus 7 minus 4. So this is a string, right? So eval, what it can do. So if you provide this eval, this value to the eval function, and if you get the return, so return simply execute. It simply execute that function given in terms of a string, right? So 10 into 2 plus 7 minus 4, 27 minus 4, right? So that means 23. And so eval is that kind of a powerful function. And the other thing is, now instead of doing it like this, right? Instead of doing it like this, what you can do is you can do it directly here, right? So whatever the, now you know that this is x, right? That means this is x. So without putting x here, what you can do is you can just put it here. Understood? So that's what I have done here, right? So without doing it separately like this, taking the value and then converting to eval, without doing it, what you can do is you can directly do it like this, right? At the input, you can pass that value into the eval, right? Without doing it separately, right? Without doing it separately like this. Understood? Right? Okay. So what I wanted to show you, the eval is the best function to use here, since these have some issues here, right? So if you put int, sometimes the float values cannot be converted, right? But if you use eval works for everything. Any kind of data type, it will work. It simply evaluates whatever the uh, yeah, right. That's the uh, simple idea of eval, right? Okay. All right. So any questions from the things that we covered so far? Since we have reached to the end of the first tutorial, like we discussed about variables. So we discussed about numbers and strings and also the input, Python input. That's all we have done in this simple tutorial. Right? I think now this is quite easy for you, right? So if you have done other programming languages and if you are a beginner to Python even, this is quite simple if you have the basic programming knowledge, right? So any questions from your side? Any doubt? Or else if I need to explain something again, some part again, I also can do that as well, right? So if you have any question, please ask, please mention if there's any issue. Seems everyone is fine. Everyone is fine with the implementation, right? Okay, so yeah. So therefore, let me go to the yeah. So there's a question. So can we use float? Yeah. You can use float. Doesn't matter, right? So you can use float like this. So I think this should work for both integers and floats. Yes, the float works for both. Yes, you can use float as well, but it won't work for this kind of things, right? Right? It won't work for this kind of things, but eval works for that kind of things as well. Right. Right. Got it, right? So we have a small quiz to be completed, right? A very small, very simple quiz, right? So you are asked to create a Python program to take two inputs from the user, two variables called value1 and value1, and print their addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, and exponent, right? So as I mentioned, you can take two inputs. Since we are going to perform like arithmetic operations here, right? So we are going to provide arithmetic operations. Therefore, it's better to use eval or float. Right? Otherwise, it will be taken as a string, right? So that won't work, right? So therefore, what we'll do is we take value 1 and value 2 and we evaluate it in order to get the correct data type, right? To convert it to integer or float. And thereafter what? Yeah, addition, we print like value 1 and value 2 plus and value 1 on minus 2 for sub, multiplication value 1 into value 2, division value 1 divided by value 2, modulus, or yeah, what do I think you know what's modulus, right? So if you like let's say divide 10 by 3, right? So it's like this, okay, 3 and 3 into 3 9, right? So this is what you call the modulus, or the remainder, we say the remainder, right? So that's what you call the remainder. And exponent is simple, like if you provide, okay, 10 and 2, it's like this, right? The power, so it's like this, value 1 to the power value 2, right? So you can do it by using 2 stars, right? So a single star does the multiplication, double star simply does the exponent, the power of value 1 to the power value 2, right? Okay,
Excuse me.
yes.
Why is there a colon after every sentence there? Like enter the value 1 colon, then addition colon,
Yeah,
subtract colon.
you mean this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's I mean, uh, it's just there. What you can do is you can put equal anything, right? Now that gives you an indication like, okay, this is the end, like that's not required, right? That's optional.
Okay, even if we don't use it, it's fine then.
Yeah, it's fine, it's totally fine. Now it's just otherwise now you will understand what happens, right? So if you run this like this, uh, okay, let's say 10 and 3, right? So can you see now there's no any like a kind of a space in between, right? Enter the value 110 likewise, right? So else now no need to have a semicolon, you can have a dash or anything, right? Or just put a space, that's fine. That's not affects the uh, code, right?
Okay.
Okay, good. So any other question? Now I think we have done the basics, like how to create variables, how to create numbers, how to create like strings, and how to take inputs in Python, right? So very simple implementations in Python. We have done the basics things, right? Yeah. So we do everything, loops, functions. We will try to finish everything, but I'm trying to like cover everything today, right? Anyway, now shall we move to the second part of the, right? All right. So very important topic, right? So I'm in the code, like the Python tutorial part 2, right? So in this one, let me share the HTML version of this one as well, if you, in case of images are not working. All right. Okay. So array. So any idea what's an array, right? Now a variable, simply a variable, what is a variable. A variable can hold a single value, right? It can be a number, it can be a string, it can be anything, like, but a single one, right? A single value. A variable can hold a single value, right? So that's what we did discuss earlier. But array is called a data structure, right? which can hold or which can assign, right? We can keep assigned set of values, sequence of values, multiple values, right? So arrays is something like collection of memory locations, right? Right. So that's what you call an array, right? So in other programming language, like we can save a sequence of values, not only one value. In variables, we can save only one value, right? As we did on last time, right? So you can see it can hold, right? A variable can hold a value like this, or value like this, right? But array can hold multiple values, right? For example, in other programming languages, C, C++, or Java, any other programming language, you can define an array like this, int x, and like this. So here, x becomes an array, right? X becomes an array, and these values are saved, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. These values are saved, right? And it has a specific number, or it has a specific index to be exact, right? So this is known as x0, the first value, right? And the second value now this, and this is known as x1, and this is known as x2, and this is known as x3, and this is known as x4, right? So the indexing starts from 0, right? Indexing starts from 0. Now here we have 5 values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the indexing starts from 0 and go up to 4. So if you have 5 values, 0 to 4. If you have 10 values, 0 to 9. If you have n values, 0 to n minus 1. The indexing goes from 0 to n minus 1 if you have n number of values in that array, right? So this is what simply an array means, right? This is what simply what we mean by an array. Got it? Right? So what happens here, right? Now, so there's a restriction, right? There's a kind of restriction in most of the programming languages, right? Languages, if you create an array, right? If you create an array like int x, now that array can hold only integer values, right? So that means in other programming language, most of the programming language, an array can hold only values in the same data type, isn't it? Right? So if you create an array like int x or float x or string x, right, that can hold only the same data type, variables from the same data type, values from the same data type, right? But this restriction will be lifted when it comes to Python, right? In Python, we don't have such a thing called arrays, right? We are not going to learn a topic called arrays in Python, right? So there is nothing called arrays in Python, but instead of that, we have 3 alternatives, right? Those are called lists, tuples, and dictionaries, right? Lists, tuples, and dictionaries. So what do you mean by lists, tuples, and dictionaries, right? So simply a list refers to something similar to an array, right? So what do you mean an array? Array is a unit. Array is a unit where we can assign a sequence of values, right? Where we can assign a sequence of values. So that what you mean by a array, right? So similar idea is there for lists, tuples, and dictionaries, right? So first, now these three are 3 different things, but there's no such a thing called arrays in Python. Right? There's no such a thing called arrays in Python, but instead of that, we have 3 things like lists, tuples, and dictionaries, right? Lists, tuples, and dictionaries. So what I mean by lists, tuples, and dictionaries, we will discuss about them, but these are 3 different things, and they are having their similarities as well as dissimilarities, right? They are having similarities in between as well as dissimilarities between, right? Anyway, we will now discuss about lists, right? Okay, so list, yeah. So a list is simply a unit where you can save sequence of values. So here you can see, right, my list. Now a list is declared by curly brackets, right? Now this is not an array, this is called a list. There's no such a thing called arrays in Python, but we have lists, tuples and dictionaries, and this is a list, right? So you can see the major difference here. You can see a major difference here. If we compare this list with the array in other programming languages, the main difference is that a list can hold any type of a value, right? See, now no any restrictions to save the same data type, values in the same data type, no, right? This is an integer, this is a float, and these two are considered as numbers in Python, and these are strings. So anything can be assigned into a list in Python, anything. What I mean by anything is bit series, right? I mean, it's bit serious, right? What I mean by anything is bit series. That means you will see that we can assign even an image. We can assign even a video, right? We can assign anything into a Python list. So that's kind of a versatile data type. Uh, you can identify list as that. You can save anything, right? Got it? So now anything, right? So I mean it, anything in the sense, right? So 10, 20.5, hello, anything, any kind of a thing can be saved in a my list, I mean list. So this is how we are going to create a list. You can have any name you like, right? And no need to have list keyword. No, it's not a keyword. You can develop it as X as well, right? Any name you like, you can put here. But a list is declared with square brackets, right? It is declared with square brackets, and you can print list and see, right? So it has index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Right. So similar indexing now, -1 refers to the last one, you can remember, right? And my list 4 here, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Right. Got it? Now I told you Python list can hold anything, right? I told you that, right? The Python list can hold anything. What I mean, it can hold anything. It can hold the image, it can hold anything, and also it can hold its own, like own data, like it can hold a list inside there, so, right? So if you are getting confused here, don't, right? So the first element is 10, my list, the first element is 10, the second element is 20.5, the third element is hello, the fourth element is and, the fifth element is 1000, and the sixth element, sorry, fifth element, right? The fifth element is a list itself, right? So if you print like, okay, fifth index, see, now you know this thing, right? So very simple. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3, and this is 4, and this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. Got it? Understood, right? I hope you understood, right? Got it? Got the idea? So that's what I mean. A Python list is a very versatile data type. It can hold anything, right? For example, now the indexing, very interesting, right? So here, if you have declared something like this, let's say, okay, 10, 20, 40, 23, 21, 24, and 12. So the same thing that I have mentioned here, right? The same thing I have mentioned here, right? So if you print my list, it prints everything, right? And if you print my list 1, that means the first element, that means this one. Right? So if you print 1 to 5, so you know the thing, right? 1 less than the upper value, that means, okay, 1 to 5, 1 less than the value given. So that means 1 to 4, right? So it prints 1 to 4, right? Here. Sorry, here. The third one. Right? And mile is 2 to what it means? 2 to end. That means, okay, 2 to end. The upper value is not mentioned. Upper value is not mentioned. That means up to end. Right? Got it? So 2 to end. Here you can see. And the last one, up to 5. The starting value is not mentioned. In that case, what happened? It will start from the beginning, the first value, and go up to 5. That means go up to 4. So that's what you can see here. Right? So this indexing is quite important, right? This indexing is quite important. And -1, you know, right? So -1 is the last one. I explained -1, -2, -3, likewise. So what you mean? Okay, -1 will be the last one here, right? So you can see -1, 12, and -2 is 24, right? And 1 to -2, what it means, right? 1 to -2. Okay, 1, start from 1 up to -2. 1 less than always the given value, right? That means up to -3. That means this section. So last one prints up to this. So this is called the indexing, right? So these using these colons and doing this. So this is called the indexing. This indexing is quite useful for our implementations in coming weeks, like machine learning and image processing implementations. This indexing is quite useful, right? So that's why I have included several examples here in order to give you a better understanding, right? Got it? Right. Then right. So can you see now what I'm trying to do here, right? Let me run this one. Okay. So here I make my list 4 equal to this one. So what happens? Okay, my list 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 21 will be replaced with this value. That's what I do here, right? So I make my list 4 equal to this one. So what happens? Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this element will be replaced with the given value, right? So the updated one, you can see it like this. So 21 now replaced with this value, isn't it? Right? So if you want to update a value in a list, you can do it like this. Right? You can do it like this. So if you want to update a value, you can do it like this. You can just call the index that you need to update and you can update it, right? For example, if you want to change the first element, see, right? Similarly, what you can do is you can, if you don't want a value and if you want to remove that value from your list, you can use the delete my list 4. So what this simply does is it deletes the fourth element, right? It deletes the fourth element. So this will be the fourth element and it will be deleted. Right. So you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, and the fourth element is deleted. Now you have 24 and 12. Got it? So that's what I have discussed, updating and deleting, right? So you can delete and update values in a list, right? And also we have some inbuilt functions and methods we can use for use with, yes.
You just replaced one of the element with another one. If we want to do that with multiple elements, then do we have to repeat the same procedure, or is there any one particular code we can use to do it for like multiple elements at once?
Yeah, very good. Now there's a question like this. Okay, let me get it again, the original one. So there's a question. Okay, so we have this one. So if I want to, like, okay, let's say that you want to replace this value, and this value, right?
Yeah.
Let's say like this. So what you can do it like this: my list, and you can give the indexing like this. Um, 2, 3, and 4. Let me try it first. No, yeah. Um, there's a way. Let me. Um, the thing is that you can't the values one by one. Is it possible to do it like that? Mhm. But actually not this one, but you can do it if we can, yeah, let me try it. I'm not sure about this, but anyway, if you can provide it like a array like this, will it work? No, but you can do it like this. There's a library called numpy. I mean, don't worry, this is something that we are going to learn tomorrow, right? This is what we are going to learn tomorrow. So we can convert this array into a numpy array. This list, this my list, we can convert it to a numpy array. So don't worry about this, what is a numpy array and why we are converting this. I will explain it tomorrow, right? But I think after doing that, you can do this 0, 0, 2, and 4. Can we? Yeah, we can, right? So let me take it like this, new list. Um, 1000, 2000, 4000. Let me print the new list now, right? So sorry, sorry. See, right? You can do it like this, but you can't do it with the Python list directly, right? Right? You can't do it with Python list directly, but you can convert it to a numpy array and you can use the indexing, okay, like this, like, okay, 0, chain 0, right? And 2, so this is 2, and this is 4, right? Chain these values to this 1000, 2000, and 4000. So they will be replaced 1000, 2000, and 4000, right? So this is one method of doing that. And I think you can understand, right? So we change the 0 element to second element and fourth element to 10, 20, and 1000, 2000, and 4000. And yeah. So as given, yeah, I think the replace can be also used. Yes, the replace can be also used. So replace I'm discussing in like in the coming sections, right? So this is one method of doing that. And there is another method called uh, replace. Yes, the replace method. Uh, have I included it here? No, only the, no, no, but you can use replace as well. I will explain that, right, in a minute, right? Okay, so yeah, so we can use functions like in Python. We have some uh, standard functions, right? Standard function with comes with the standard definition with Python, right? So these like very useful functions are there now. You can use the sum function, right? The sum function, the length, maximum, minimum. So for example, sum, what it does, right? When you have a list, right? When you have a list, when you provide that list into this function, right? When you provide this list into this function simply returns the sum, the summation of those values, right? So it adds, now this list is passed to the sum function. So sum function simply add all these values and return the addition, right? For example, it returns 150. And you can get the length. So what mean by the length? When you provide an array, now this is a list, right? So this is a list. When you provide this list into this length function, the length function simply counts how many elements are there, right? Here, use the total length of the list. That means how many elements are there, and it returns the elements, and you can take it and like do whatever you want. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it has 7 elements. That's what it says, right? The maximum value, you can get the maximum value of this array. Right? Similarly, you can get the minimum value, right? Minimum value. Right? So you can use those things. Now, but what happens if you have a string array, a string list? A string list, how the maximum is taken here? It takes a maximum, right? So when you provide this list into the max function, it returns the maximum value. So maximum value is physics. How that is taken? How that is taken? Any idea? Um, can we switch the values? Switch. Swap, right? Swapping. I'm not sure whether there is a standard function, but let me check it and let you know. I'm not sure about that. Switch is, yeah, switch can be done simply, but I'm not sure whether there is a standard function for that to do that. But it can be done manually. Simply, it can be done. Yeah. So my question, original question, physics, chemistry, maths. How the maximum selected here? How the maximum string selected? Any idea? Character value. Others, what do you think?
Because it's the first one.
No, not exactly, but it gives like it compares the first character, right? It compares the first character and gets the maximum according to the alphabetical order, right? So it compares the first character and gets the maximum one according to the alphabetical order. So if you take the alphabetical order, P is the maximum, right? Got it? No, no, not the sum of the ASCII value. No, no any relationship between the ASCII value here. Um, no, not the sum of the ASCII value. No, no, no. Right? But here, what happens then? If the first character is the same, what happens? Huh? If the first character is the same, what happens? Any idea?
Then it compares using the second character.
Yes, yes, exactly. So it if the first character is the same, it compares the second character, right? So here we take the minimum. So you know the minimum is A, right? So if you like go with the ascending order of the alphabetical ascending order, the minimum value will be A, right? Character A, right? Got it? Right. Uh, and also it has some now we discussed about functions, list functions. So these are called list functions. Why it called list functions? These functions can be used with the list. What you have to do is you have to pass a list inside here. You can pass a list inside and get the result, right? You can get the sum, you can get the return, like you can get the return, the summation, you can get the return, the length, you can get the maximum, you can get the minimum. So you can pass a list inside this function and you can return something back, right? So that's what happens here. And the other thing here is that so those are called functions, and we have some methods as well, right? So what do you mean by a method? What's the difference between a function and a method? Yes, any idea? A method and a function?
So when a function is defined inside a class, it's called a method. Otherwise, it's just called a function.
Yes, exactly. So if you have, I mean, if a function is declared as a, as a function inside a class, then it's called a method. Now, in order to call a method, there should be a object, right? So this is something related to object-oriented programming. Now, in order to call a method, you can't call it like a function. You can't call it standalone, right? So here, no need, like this function can be called and you can pass anything. So this is standalone function. But methods are not like that. In order to call a method, you should have a object, right? You have to have an object. So what happens? The methods are something like you have to go to the, the object-oriented programming concepts, but don't worry if we don't have the object-oriented programming concepts, not necessary. But anyway, in order to call these methods, you should call it by using an object. Like, okay, now the list, you are going to consider this as a object, right? So what happens? Object, now this list will be considered as object and you call like object dot the method, right? So now, if you don't have the object-oriented programming knowledge, just forget everything. So in order to call these methods, you have to call it like the list name dot, right? But functions, these functions, no need to call it like that. You can call the function and you can pass the list inside. But in order to call a method, these are the available method. In order to call the methods, what you have to do is you have to call it by the, like, you have to call it like my list or whatever the list name dot, then the method name, append, count, extend, or whatever, right? So let us talk about append, what it does. Okay, my list dot append, and we pass a value. What happens? Whatever the value that we are going to pass will be added to the end of this list. So that's called appending, right? That's called appending. So here what I have done, okay, I call my list dot append, since method should be called with the list. So if you want to append something, you have to call append a list into my list, then my list dot append, then you need to pass the value, right? Then you need to pass the value. Got it? My list dot append, this one. Right? So what this index does, index. Any idea? So this index simply search whether this given value is available on the list, right? This checks whether this given value is available in this list, and if it is available, it returns that index. What I mean by that? So it's simply right. So this is 0. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Right. So it search for 20, and if the 20 is available, it returns okay, 20 is at the first element here, 1. But when you have multiple values, it can't detect it. So here in the definition, it says returns the lowest index in list that object appears. That means whatever the value that we pass here, the lowest element, the first element that you are going to find, if you go like ascending order, right? So it will be given as the return, right? How to append at a particular position? Okay, a good question. How to append at a particular uh, um, position? That is something that you are going to do with the insert, right? So append actually, so let's say that we want to insert something, right? Hello, and you have to provide the index. Okay, I'm asking like, okay, to the position 1 append hello. That's what you call, that's what happens in the insert. See, that's how we are going to append to a particular position, right? Using the insert, right? Append simply like append it to the end, but insert you can give a customized index and append it, right? Okay, but we have lots of things, right? So you have lots of things that lots of available methods here, right? And the count, simply what the count does, it checks how many 20s are available in this list, right? So it counts how many values are available. I mean, how many 20s are available. So when you pass count 20, what happens? It search for 20 and returns how many 20s are there. So it says simply two 20s are there, 1 and 2. Right? So if you pass a value that is not available, it gives you 0, right? 1000 is not available here, right? So that means gives the count as 0. Got it? So likewise, we have lots of things, right? So I'm not going to go between I'm going to go through each and every one, right? Uh, but what you can do is you can run these things and check the outputs and see what these things gives, right? Right. I will explain one thing, right? So one last thing. So if you have like, let's say array 1, and if you have array 2, you can do something like this, right? Array 3 equal array 1 dot extend array 2. Sorry, sorry. You can't do it like this, but you can, sorry, not like this, but like this, right? So array 1 dot extend array 2. So what we are doing is we like add the array 2 into the array 1. So array 1 will be updated and array 1 will be extended with the array 2, right? So this was the original array 1, right? So what we do, like array 1 dot extend array 2. So what happens? The array 2 is like appended to the end. The whole array is appended. right? So likewise, we have lots of inbuilt list methods. I'm not going to go through each and every one, right? So I have worked through few of them. So I will keep the remaining to you so you can try them out, right? So you can sort, you can like sort in the sense like it, uh, for example, now, so if you have array like this, right? So array one dot sort. See what it does? Huh? Any idea what it does? Yes, any idea what it simply does here?
So it's sorting in ascending order.
Yes, exactly, ascending order, right? So if you want to sort it in the descending order, like you have to pass a parameter called reverse. Let me check. Yeah, reverse, and if you make the reverse parameter true, so it's in the descending order, right? Yeah. By ascending order default, if you make like a if you pass a parameter reverse true, then it will make it in the descending order, right? Okay, so that's all. Now you can go through the remaining again. Now you have some works to do, right? So you have like, before coming to the session tomorrow, please, you have to walk through the things that we cover today, right? Just okay, participating and sleeping and coming tomorrow at 6 p.m. won't do anything, right? So you have like go through these things again yourselves, right? Okay, so I expect from you that you walk through these things again and get these things covered, right? That's how we are going to concrete these ideas in your head, right? Okay, so tuple, the next topic. Tuple is quite similar to a
Excuse me.
list.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yes. See, say for example, my array has some numbers followed by some strings, and in the result, I want the ascending order of the numbers along with the strings. How can I do that?
Yeah, so you mean something like this, right? Let us have yeah, let us declare a array like this. Yeah, we'll take this one. I will define my array like this,
It's
and
already started. It's already. No, no, no. Okay, okay. Please carry on. Please carry
yeah. Okay, so this kind of array, let's say, right? We have this kind of array. So for example, now you mean the ascending order and descending order, right?
on. Yes.
Yeah. So we will, if we try to sort it, if we try to sort it, do you have any idea how this is done? Huh? Right. So it cannot be done here, right? So in order to sort, you have to have like the same kind of a data set. I mean, so same kind of a variables with the same type, right? It cannot be done when you have like this kind of strings and integers together, right? It gives like not supported between instances of strings and integers. So if
Mm,
you have them together, it cannot be done.
okay. Okay.
All
So,
right.
any other ways you can
Um,
suggest?
any other way? So I think the objective is to like do this separately, right? So this one separately and this one separately, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, you can do something like this. I'm not sure whether this is going to work. Let me try. So 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. And no, it's not done. It doesn't work. Let's see. No, 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 it won't work. No, it won't work.
Sir,
Yeah.
the sort method doesn't change the initial array. I think that's why it's printing the original array.
Okay, yeah. So if I print it like this, will it work? No, ne? Anyway, I think you can do something like this. I mean, you can convert it to two parts. I'm not sure this is the best way, but this is one way, right? I'm not sure this is a hard way, but this is one way of doing it. So you can 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to take up to 0 to 5, right? 0 to 5, and that would be like if you print my array, now the my array 1, right? That would be the only the part, this part in the sense the integer part, and I can take the remaining part, right? The remaining part into like the remaining part in the sense from 5 to n. That means a, an, and jane. Let me change these two, otherwise you don't find the difference, right? So what you can do here now, you have to do this separately. Let me take it like array 2. So I'm like what I'm doing here, if you print these two, array 1 and array 2, yeah. So I just separated to using indexing, I just separated it to two arrays, right? And then what you can do, sort and sort, right? Now let me after the right. So I think now this is right. Print after sorting, right? So now after sorting, what should happen? We will see that the two separated arrays are now they are done. They are sorted, right? After like taking it two, right? So after this, what you can do is you can replace it, right? So my array equal. Let me check. I'm not sure whether this is correctly done. Yep. So this is after replacing. So I think you can do it like this then, right? So after sorting, I add the two arrays together and replace the my array, right? But unfortunately, this could be done only like you have integers separately and uh, um, strings separately. So if you have like mix them together, if you have array like mix them together, which like in between, if you have strings, this won't work, right? But if you have them separately, you can do it, right? Sorry. Right. Yeah. If you have it like this also, you can do it, right? But you have to do some. Huh? Yes. Okay. Now, if you have it like this as well, you can do it still. How? Huh? Um. Yeah. Right. So if you have it like this as well, you can do it, but bit awkward. But I mean, you have to implement something yourself, right? So if I go like this is how you are going to now. Don't worry, right? Don't worry. I just wanted to show you that this can be done. If you have a mix of values, you can all still do it, right? So let me create like str array and int array, right? I'm going to create two arrays, two empty arrays. So two empty lists to be exact, two empty list, and I'm going to have a for loop. Now don't worry if you are not familiar with for loops. I will discuss about for loops in a minute, right? But anyway, I'm going to go through each and every, right? And I'm going to check for like each and every element of the array one by one. And if it is an integer, right? If it is an integer, I'm going to append that value to the int array, right? I'm going to append this array to the int array, right? Got it? Else if it is a string, right? If it is a string, I'm going to append it to the, if it is a string, sorry, a str. If it is a str, I'm going to append it to the str array, right? So what I'm trying to do here, I have two empty arrays and I walk through each and every element, right? Each and every element, and I'm checking whether I have to check the type, right? I have to check the type of the element, each element. So if the each element, I mean the elements, the integer elements, I'm going to append it to the like int array. If it is a string element, I'm going to append it to the string array, right? So finally, if you like print these two, see now what I just did, I have a mixed like a data type mixed array, right? So then finally I divided it to like splitted it into two arrays. See, what I simply did was I walked through each and every element of the array using a for loop, and then I check the type. If the type is integer, I append it to the int array. If the type is string, I append it to the string array. And I got two things, string array and the int array, right? Got it? So then what I did was, now hereafter what you can do, right? Hereafter you can do this thing, right? Now you have separated them. Now you can split, understood? Huh? Like this, see? So I'm going to sort this separately, right? And I'm going to print like after sorting the int array and the string array, and my array becomes the addition of these two. Right? Got it? So anything can be done, but you have to think a bit now. There are no any straightforward, I don't know. I mean, as I know, there are no any straightforward method to do this, but you can still do it like if you think a bit, right? What I did was, you have an array with mixed values like integers and string. So I go through each and every value, and I appended the integers to this int array, and I append the strings to the string array, and I check the type here. I check if each element, the first element is an integer, append it to this one. If the ith element is a string, append to this one, right? Then I sorted them individually, and after sorting, I again added these two and create a my array back. Right? So if you think you can do anything, right? But no any standard libraries do this, as far as I know. But you can write your own code. Think a bit, and you can write your own code like this. Got it? Understood, right? Understood, right? Anyway, don't worry, right? That's something that since you asked, I explain, right? Anyway, so tuples, the second type. So in order to remind you where we are, now we discuss about lists, right? Now we are in the second one, tuples, right? What do you mean by a tuple? Right? What do you mean by a tuple? Is quite similar to a list, right? A tuple is quite similar to a list with one major difference, right? The appearance also bit different, right? So can you remember we defined lists using square brackets, right? We defined them using square brackets. But tuples, we defined them using round brackets, And don't think that's the only difference, right? No, we have like several differences here, right? What's the major difference here, right? So you can see that the appearance is also a bit different, right? So this is, once you are going to declare tuple, it is declared with round brackets, right? And tuple like quite similar to a list, right? See, you can get the max, you can get the sum, you can do everything like what you did with the tuple. You can do anything. You can do anything you did with the list, but you can't do one thing. This is the most important thing, right? Tuple is quite similar to a list with one major difference, right? That difference is, once a tuple is declared, right, you can't modify that tuple. You can't modify that tuple. You can't modify that tuple in the sense you can't change the values. You can't assign values. You can't replace already existing values. No. Once a tuple is declared, you can get the maximum, you can get the minimum, you can do anything. You can do the indexing, right? So you can see the indexing can be done anything. You can do anything. Right? You can do anything, right? Anything can be done. And similar, like you use the square bracket for accessing the values, right? So use square brackets to access the value. But one major difference, that difference is you can't change values. Now I'm trying to change this value to 1000, right? I'm trying to change this value to 1000, so it cannot be done, right? It cannot be done, right? So in other words, I can say, once a tuple is declared, you can't modify, you can't replace, you can change a tuple. In one word, I can say tuple is a read-only list, right? Even you can't append, you can insert, you can anything won't work. You are going to end up with an error, right? Here it say, when I'm trying to change a value, tuple object does not support item assignment. It says you can't assign items after a tuple is declared. Now you may be wondering, okay, so then what's the purpose of having a tuple? Now, I know that you have lots of questions here, right? But don't worry. Now, today and tomorrow, we will basically go through the content, right? Okay, Python basics, Python variables, dictionaries, tuples, lists, then functions, groups, decision making, and tomorrow we will work through NumPy, Matplotlib. Then the third week onwards, and some part of tomorrow as well, we are going to discuss our practical applications. What I mean by practical applications. Now, this is the most important thing. Now, don't think that this will be a boring uh, kind of a workshop. No, the first, I mean, the first day and the second part, for the first part of the second day, right? The first day and the first part of the second day will be a bit boring since we are going to go through all the basics of Python, right? But from the third week onwards, we will do this kind of very interesting things. So this is the practical that we are going to do on our, right? Let me show you. So when we are going to move on to image processing, right? We will, yeah, so let me show you, right? So we will implement this kind of, right, live plant height detection using image processing, right? So very interesting things will be done. So you can see it detects the height of this plant, right, in real, right? So likewise, very interesting things is done. So this is done for a video, right? And so actually this is, and yeah, so this kind of things, right? The plant height detection. Likewise, very interesting things will be done in our workshop, right? For example, this one, and we will be implementing let me show you some other applications as well. Um, this kind of nice graphical user interfaces will be created. Right, so this kind of right, digit recognition application using machine learning, right? So we have lots of interesting things to be implemented in coming days, right? So what we are doing in these first days, right? First days in the sense now today and some part of tomorrow, right? What we are trying to do is simply we are trying to create the background knowledge for those implementations, right? So we are creating the background knowledge. That's what we are doing here. Now we cover all the basics, but in the coming days of our workshop, we will move on to those kind of implementations, right? So we will move on to those kind of implementation, those and these kind of things probably, right? See, right? Lane detection, right? So very interesting things will be done in our workshop, right? Very interesting things will be done, but in order to do these things, we have to have some background knowledge, right? So you can understand what I'm trying to say, right? So that background knowledge, like building that background knowledge, is what we are doing on the first few days. Not few days, but the first day and the first part of the second day, right? Then we are going to move on to practical application. So that's why you like feel that, okay, I'm going to go through each and every topic. So we are collecting the knowledge, we are building our background, right? So after doing this, we can straight away use these things, right? So everything that we are going to cover in this workshop, I mean today and part of tomorrow, will be used in our practical implementations, right? Will be quite useful in our practical implementation. So you will see these things when you are going to like deal with those kind of things, right? Applications, projects, right? Okay, so tuple, simply you can't change values in tuples, right? So that's the major difference, right? Okay, right. So yeah. So the thing here is that a tuple, right? A tuple, what's the major thing here, right? The major difference, a tuple is a read only, right? That means once a tuple is declared, it's kind of a list, quite similar to a list, but one difference that you can't change once a tuple, you can't change the values in the tuples, you can't append anything, you can't change a tuple simply after it's declared. So that's what you call a tuple, right? So then you will be wondering, okay, what are the applications of a read-only list? Yes, we have lots of applications, and we will discuss about them soon, right? Okay, so there's a small thing to be uh, informed, right? So there is a small feedback form, right? So I expect everyone to fill this form. So this is kind of a feedback about the session that we are going to cover in each day. So this is the form that you are going to get for today, right? So like just fill the true idea, right? I mean, what you feel about this workshop, right? Good or bad, anything, right? It can be good or bad. You can fill this with your uh, true ideas, right? Okay, so then yeah, so that's what you call the tuple, right? So tuple, the usage, what are the applications of a tuple? Yes, we will discuss about these things, and we will implement, we will get to know about these things in our practical applications where we can use tuples. But for now, just keep the idea in mind. Okay, list, we can do lots of things. Tuples also, we can do lots of things, but unlike list, you can't modify a tuple, right? You can't modify a tuple. That's the major difference, right? And then the most important idea is the third one, the dictionary. Very important thing, right? A dictionary. So the idea here is quite straightforward, right? So this is a list, right? This is a list, right? This is a list. So you know that if you define a list like this, right? You know that this is the 0 element, and this is the first element, and this is the second element, and this is the third element. Likewise, you know the index number, right? The index number, you know, right? That means of, okay, if you want to access this value, right? If you want to access this value, you have to access it like student 0. So that's what we were doing in early codes, right? I mean, if you want to get the name, you have to put it like, okay, student 0. If you want to get this value, that means, let's say, maths marks. So just assume that, okay, this is the name of a student. This is the maths marks of the student, then this is the physics marks of the student, and this is the chemistry marks of the student. Or let's say subject 1, subject 2, subject 3, and the name. So this list contains the name and 3 marks, right? Got it? So the idea here, right? The idea here that when you want to access a value, okay, if you want to access the name, right, you have to always refer it like student 0, right? If you want to access the maths marks, you have to refer it by student 1. If you want to access the student, I mean the physics marks, you have to call it by 2 likewise, right? So it has, you have to always call, if you want to get a value, you have to always get it by a index, right? So you have to get it by the index. You have to always keep the index in your mind. That's the most important thing, right? So here now for example, okay, if you want to calculate the average, you can add these 3, right? You can add these 3 and divide by 3. So student 1 refers the max marks, student 2 refers this one, and student 3 refers the chemistry marks, right? So that's what it means simply, right? So 3 subjects, let's say. So when you print average, you are going to get this, right? But the idea dictionary, right, is something like, here you have to always keep the index in your mind, right? So you have to keep an idea about the index. Okay, 0 index, that's the name. First index, there is the maths mark. Second index, physics marks. Third index, this likewise, right? But when it comes to dictionary, no, what you can do, this is how we are going to declare a dictionary, right? This is how we are going to declare a dictionary. So dictionary, now you can see now the values are separated by a comma, right? Values are separated by a comma, right? Values are separated by a comma. So here also separated by comma, but you have a pair here, right? You have a pair, right? Here also there's a pair, and here also there's a pair. So values are in pairs, right? So these two are called key. This one is called key, and this one is called value. That means, okay, this is the key one, this is the value one. This is the key one, this is the value one. Why? The pairs are separated, splitted by this comma, right? So this is the name one, the value one. Name 2, value 2. Name 3, value 3. Name 4, value 4. Understood, right? Got it, right? So what happens now? Right? So we have given a customized index here, right? Now here onwards, no need to use 0, 1, 2, likewise. No need to keep the index in your mind. Instead of that, what you can do is you can use your own customized index, right? So now, if we want to access, now this is key, this is value, key 1, value 1, key 2, value 2, key 3, value 3, key 4, value 4. Now the idea here is that if you want to get the value, this value, or this value, or this value, or this value, if you want to get the value, you have to call not the index, but you have to call the key now, right? Here earlier we use 0, 1, 3. Now we can use what? Right? Name, maths, physics. So gives the same, right? It gives the same, right? Got the idea, right? So if you want to get this value, you have to call it by the key. If you want to get this value, you have to call it by the key. Now, no need to keep the order, or no need to keep the index in your mind, right? What you can do simply, you can just call the key. You have given a customized name here. So no need to, no need to remind the uh, keep the index number in your mind, right? So it's like this. If you call the key, you are going to get the value, right? If you call the key, you are going to get the value. If you call the key, you are going to get the value. Likewise. That's what you call a dictionary, right? And one important thing, don't think that the key always needed to be a string. No, right? The key no need to always be a string. For example, you can give any value right here. Now what? If we want to get the name, call it by the key. So what's the key here? See, not always, I mean, it's not necessary to be a string, right? Not necessary to be a string. What you can do is you can simply have anything. It can be an integer, it can be a string, it can be a character, it can be a float value, anything. But the idea here, if you want to get the value, you have to call it by the key. That's all. And the key can be anything, and the value can be anything as well. You know the, I mean, in a list you can save anything, no, right? In a list you can save a array, you can save a string, you can save integers, you can save anything, right? Got it? Right? So the key can be anything, and the value also can be anything, right? But this makes no sense, right? So that's why I put it like name. Otherwise it makes no sense, right? So if you want to update the value, you have to call by the key and then update the value. For example, if we have the dictionary like this, then how to change this maths value? You have to call it by the key and change the value, right? So student math. So student is this one, and the math, we are going to call the maths key, and we assign 20. So what happens? This value will be replaced with 20. And the other important thing, a student, I mean, a dictionary is declared with curly brackets, right? That's the other most important thing. This one is declared with a string, I mean, curly bracket, right? A dictionary is declared with a curly bracket. That's the most important thing, right? So this is how we are going to change it. See, this is how we are going to change a value. You have to call it by the key and give the new value. So it will be changed. Right? Now here, this is how you can assign a new pair to a already existing dictionary. Right? To already existing dictionary, we can assign a new pair like this, right? So you can see there is no any key called average, right? There is no any key called average. When there is already existing key is given, that value, that key will be replaced. That means that value will be replaced, right? So when you are going to provide the already existing key and provide the value, the already existing value of that key will be replaced. But if we provide a key which is not available in the dictionary, and if you provide a new value, what happens? That will be assigned to that dictionary, right? For example, the average was not there in the student list, student dictionary. So what we do here, we add student average and we assign this value. So we take the maths marks, physics marks, chemistry marks, and we divide it by 3, right? Understood, right? So then what happens? You can see to the end of the thing, end of the dictionary, this one is added. I mean, the average is added. So for example, now this is a dummy value, no meaning here, right? No meaning. So what this simply does is it creates a key called KK, right? A key called KK and assign the value, right? So you can see. So if you provide the key that or not already existing, that key and value will be added, right? That key and value will be added. That's what happens simply. Got it? Right? So we will discuss about dictionaries now. We are going to use dictionaries in lots of implementations, right? Lots of our implementations. So it will be quite useful for our coming weeks, coming days, sorry. Right? So this is simply the idea of dictionaries, right? And the other thing, if you have like keys and values, right? If you have keys and values, right? If you have keys and values, what you can do is you can include keys in a separate list and values in a separate list, and you can create a dictionary by combining these things, right? So we have a special function called zip. You know what zip is, right? Zip. So we are going to like do something like zipping. We provide the keys and we provide the values. So keys is a list, values is also a list. So what we'll do, we use this zip function. So what this zip function does, it is combines these keys and values together, and then it will be converted to a dictionary. So this is how you can create a dictionary by already existing uh, keys and values in a list, right? So if you can like provide keys and values separately, you can combine those keys and values and you can create a dictionary like this, right? So name, John, math, this, physics, this, chemistry, this, likewise. Got it? All right. So if you want like adding and deleting, you can do both, right? Here, if you want to delete a key and value pair, right, you can do it like this. If you want to delete a key, right, if you want to, I mean, not a key, but if you want to delete a pair, if you want to delete a pair, what you can do, delete, the command delete and the dictionary, and you have to provide the key. So once the key is provided, the value and the key both will be deleted, right? And this is how we are going, like if you want to delete the entire dictionary, this is how we are going to do it, right? My dictionary dot clear and delete my dictionary. If you want to like remove all the elements, this is how we are going to do, like this. But this is how we are going to do it when you need to just delete already existing pair in the sense like a key and a value, right? Okay. Yeah. Right. So this is one important thing, right? So you can't have like lists as keys. You can't assign lists as keys, but you can assign lists as values. You can do that, but you can't assign lists as keys. That's one of the most important thing, right? Okay. Here key is unique. Yeah. Key needs to be unique, right? Right. So now one important thing here, right? The like if you print the my dictionary, right? So what happens if you have like two keys in the same name, right? The most, I mean the last one will, I mean last one replace the first one, right? The last one replace the first one. Understood? Last one, I mean if you like accidentally, let's say you are going to declare a value using the same key, the last one will replace the first one, right? Okay, so we have like some dictionary functions as well. Dictionary functions as some dictionary methods as well, right? So I'll keep these things to you, right? So you can quickly walk through these things and like simply run these things. So I have given some examples here as well. So you can quickly go through these things and see uh, the, the the functionalities of these methods and the functions, right? So I will keep it to you, and I have given some examples here as well. So example codes are also given. So what you can do is you can check these things, just run it, and you can then see the output. So you'll get to know the functionalities of these things. I'm not going to go through each and every one here, right? Okay, so then we have a quiz, right? We have a quiz here. So the first one, like you are asked to implement this. Uh, I mean the uh, this trig function, right? This trig table actually, right? So that means when you provide like sine 0, it should provide 0. When like sine 30, it should provide 0.5. Likewise, sine 45, it should provide this value, right? Sine 0, you should provide this one. Sine 30, you should provide this one. Sine 45, you should provide this one, right? Cos 0, you have to provide this one, likewise. So it's quite simple, right? So you define three dictionaries. Okay, 0 is 0. 30 is 0.5, right? 30, 30 is 0.5, right? 45 is 0.07 707. Likewise, so we have defined two dictionaries for each sine, cos, and tan. Right? Got it? So then you can access it like this. So this is one example. And the last question, using input function, take names and math marks of 10 students to two different lists, names and marks. Use the append function. So you are going to give, you have a hint also given, append function. Then using the shift function, create a dictionary called student using names as keys and marks as values. So what you have to do, create two empty arrays called names and marks and run this loop for 10 times or whatever the value, 10 times. Now these loops, how to implement loops will be discussed later, right? The next topic, right? And what you are asked to do is get two inputs like x and y and append the x into names and append the y into marks, right? So we get the x to names and we take marks to y, and we append the x into names and y into marks. And finally, so names will be taken separately and marks will be separately. So what we'll do is we finally zip it, the names and marks. So we have discussed about this zipping. So we'll zip it, and finally we will get the dictionary, right? So you can run some sample values and check the output, right? Got it? Okay, so that's what we are going to discuss about dictionaries under dictionary. So before moving on to now, as I mentioned, we will see the practical implementations and the practical usages of these things from the third day onwards, right? Third day onwards, we are going to see the practical implementations of these topics, right? I just cover the important theories here. That's what I'm doing, right? Okay, so before going on to the next one, any questions from you all? Any concern, any doubt you may have? Where you use for loop to sort them? Actually, I did it. I mean, that's not included here. I just implemented in this code, but I will, yeah, this is where I did it, but I will upload the updated code into the Google Drive, right? So now this one, the sorting, this is based on the question you asked, right? One of you asked. So this is not included in the code since this is what you asked at the lecture. But I will upload this updated one to the drive, right? So you can get it from there. Okay, so last part, I think we can finish this today itself, right? Decision making, right? Decision making. It's a very important topic when it comes to programming, not only in Python but most of the programming, right? So decision making comes when we need to like execute conditional statements, right? Conditional is statement in the sense like if you want to check, like if you want to check a condition and if you want like check a condition before executing a code, right? So in order to do that, you have to use decision making, right? So the conditional codes, there are some set of codes, let's say, that needed to be executed when a condition is satisfied. If this, do this, or else do this. Likewise, if you want like run a code based on a condition, then you have to use this decision making, right? So decision making, like we have three main things to be discussed: the if condition, and the if else, and then the if else if, right? So if statement is quite simple, right? So this is how we are going to implement a if condition in your code, right? So what we are going to do, you have the if keyword, you have to have the if keyword, then within brackets you are going to include the condition, and thereafter what happens, you are going to include the colon, right? You are going to include a colon, and this simply, this if condition is like a door, or if this condition like is, yeah, it's like a door. Now this door will be open when this condition is true. Whatever the condition that you are going to provide here is true, this condition will be executed, right? And if it is not true, that that gate or that door will be closed. That means you can't go inside, right? So this is the body of this if condition, right? The conditional code. So this conditional code will be included inside the if condition, right? Inside the if condition. So that means what? When this condition is true, whatever the conditional code defined inside this statement, if condition, right? The 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 code there in the body of this if condition will be executed, right? If that condition is false, what happens? That code won't be executed. That conditional code won't be executed, and the normal code will be like whatever the other codes of the program will be executed, right? So this is where you are going to make a decision, right? So you have to provide it like this, right? If it is true, the conditional code. What does it mean by the conditional code? Conditional code is the code that you are going to include inside this decision. I mean this if condition block, right? If it is false, the normal code will be executed. For example, here we have two variables, a and b, right? So we are going to check whether b is less than a, right? So what happens? Is b less than a? Huh? No, right? It's false. Therefore, this door is closed. That means this condition, whatever the conditional code that you have included inside, won't be executed. It won't be executed, right? So if you run this, you are not going to see any output. But if I change this here, now if b is greater than a, that means what? Okay, so b is greater than a, yes, b is 20, but a is 10. So this condition is true. Therefore, this conditional code will be executed. So this is called a conditional code. Why this is called a conditional code is to the fact, right? Due to the fact that this is inside the if condition, so that's why it's called a conditional statement. What I mean, how we are going to define the body of this if condition, right? So it starts with, now if you like right, it starts with this colon, right? So the colon, now once a colon is provided, this tab is automatically placed. Can you see, right? So when you put the kernel here, I mean the colon, and when you press it, press the enter, the tab is automatically placed, right? So whatever the things that you are going to type, or whatever the statements that you are going to include with this tab, is considered as the body of the if condition, right? Whatever the codes that you are going to include here, by keeping this tab, right, by keeping this tab, will be considered as the body of this condition, the body of this condition, right? And how to like terminate, or how to mark the end of the if condition, right? Whenever you are going to like remove the tab, and if you write a condition, sorry, not a condition, if you remove the tab and if you write something, some condition, kind of not a condition to be, no need to be condition, but if you write some instruction, or if you type some statement, if you simply write another code line, then that marks the end of that if condition. So now this one colon marks the start of this if condition body, and whenever you are going to remove the tab and type a code, that marks the, now this marks the end of the if condition, right? Now the thing is, here you don't have curly brackets. So in other programming languages you have these kind of curly brackets, so it marks the start and the end. But here in Python, no, not like that, right? You only have the colon. So colon marks the start, and whenever you are going to remove the tab and type something, that marks the end of that if condition, right? Right. So then the if else, right? So then the second one is if else. So what do you mean by if else, right? If else is what? Huh? If else is kind of a binary option, right? It's like this now. Okay, if the condition given here, if it is true, okay, doesn't matter what happens, the conditional statement given inside the condition will be executed. After executing it, this terminates, right? But if this is not true, what happens? If this condition is not true, definitely no any other condition will be checked, but whatever the code given in the else will be executed, right? So one important thing, right? So when this is true, this if condition will be executed as I annotated here. But if that condition is false, definitely the code inside the else will be executed. Whatever the code inside the else will be executed. That's why I say like binary. If like there's a chance to go inside the if code, or else you have to go to the else. Definitely one will be happen, right? Now, if it is true, now it's not, it will definitely do this else. Right? So binary choice here. So for example, I have given here, right? So I'm going to take amount and I will evaluate it and convert it to the data type, and I get the amount, right? I check whether the amount is less than 1000, and if it is less than 1000, you are going to provide like 0.05 discount. 0.05 discount, that means 5% discount. Else you are going to provide 10% discount. So if you like enter value like this, what will happen? Let's see. Is this condition true? The condition that we are checking is true. Is it true? Yes, is true or not? Yes, a very simple question. Is it true or not? Yes, yes, it is, right? So since this is true, what happens? This will be executed and terminates. That means this will be executed there. So this won't be executed, right? So if this is true, that's all. Then this will be terminated here, right? Got it? Okay. Fine. So you are going to get 5% discount. So 5 into 500 is 25. So you are going to get a payable of 475, right? So now, so what happens? Now this condition is not true. Therefore, what happens? This will be definitely executed. That means since the amount is not 2000, that means it's greater than, sorry, that means the amount is not less than 1000. That means definitely it's greater than 1000. Then what happens? You are going to get 10% discount. Right? You are going to get a 10% discount then. Right. Okay. Right. So 1000 into 10%, 200. So 1800 discount is given here, right? Then the elif, right? So this is the other thing, the third one, right? So there's an important thing that I want to highlight. So this act as a unit. What I mean by a unit, so this if and else are connected. That means if this is true, this will be executed, then terminates. And if it is false, this will be executed. So only one of these conditional statements will be executed. Either the if statement, either the else statement. Only one of them, right? So the similar idea is there, right? This is kind of a unit, right? So this whole thing is unit. That means only one of these conditional statement will be executed, only one, right? It's done like this. If this condition, now there's a priority, right? The priority is in this side. So first we are going to check this one. There's a priority, okay, this one. If this is true, this will be executed and that's all. Only one will be executed, only one conditional statement will be executed, then it will be terminated, like go to the remaining of the code, right? And if it is false, right, then this will be checked. That means it's mandatory, right, to mandatory. That means this condition definitely should be false in order to check this condition, right? This should be definitely false, the condition 1, to check the condition 2. And if this is true, this will be executed, and after that, right? So this condition will be checked only if condition 1 is false. That means there's only possibility to execute this code. The condition 1 definitely should be false, right? If this is also false, what happens? This will be checked, and if it is true, this will be executed, right? So in order this condition to be checked, this all this should be false first, and this should be false, and then only this will be checked, right? Finally, right, if nothing, like you can have any number of else if conditions, right? If else if else if else if, you can check any number of conditions using elif. Finally, if any condition is not satisfied, if any the first if condition, any other else if conditions are not satisfied, then what happens? The else will be executed. The else will be definitely executed. If any of the if or else if prior if or else if conditions are not satisfied, that is not satisfied, the else code will be executed, right? That's what happens. So I have given you example here, right? If the amount is 1000, less than 1000, 5. Else if less than 5000, 10. Else, right? That means, okay, in order to check this condition should be false, definitely, as I mentioned, right? So that means what? In order to check this one, that means amount should not be less than 1000. That means definitely the amount should be, now if you are checking this one, if the code check this one, that means the amount is definitely greater than 1000, right? Otherwise no chance to check this. That means you are checking this since this is greater than 1000. So that means it's like checking the amount is greater than 1000 and less than 1000, sorry, less than 5000. This else if is actually checking whether the amount is greater than 1000 and less than 5000, right? So finally, else, in order to execute this else, this should be false as well as this should be false. So that means what's the condition that checking here, that checked here? Huh? What's the condition that you are checking in the else? Any idea? Right. My question, in order to like check this code, the amount should be what? The amount should be what? Yes, quickly. So we will be finishing in 2 minutes, right? Quickly, yes. The amount should be what? Yes, the amount should be. So if this needed to be checked, the amount should be what? That means this should be also false. This should be also false. That means what? Yes, the amount should be what? Quickly. Amount should be, yes. Yes. That means, okay, if this is false, that means the amount is not less than 1000. That means the amount is greater than 1000. And if this is false, that means the amount is greater than 1000, amount is not greater than 1000, and amount is not less than 5000. That means this checks whether the amount is greater than 5000, right? Isn't it? Yeah. So this checks now. This checks whether the amount is less than 1000. If this is false, only this will be checked. That means this checks whether the amount is greater than 1000 and less than 5000. And if this is false, that means the amount is not greater than 1000 and less than 5000. That means the amount is greater than 5000, right? So that's what checks here, right? So if you provide like 800 or 500, so 25% discount. If you provide like 2000, that's this condition is false, but this is true, right? That means 10%. So if you provide like 6000, then 50%. That means what? 900, right? So I have done a small change here. Now, can you quickly tell me what's the discount provided here? Now you can see both codes, right? You can see both codes, so you can compare. And what I'm asking is, what's the discount provided from this one? this code. If I enter, let's say if I enter 1000, what is the discount provided here? Quickly.
So I think the second if statement will also run
The second one.
because yeah, because we don't have else. So that's why first it will calculate the discount based on the first if statement, and then it will calculate the discount on the basis of second if statement. Both the if statements will run.
Yes, very good, right? So it provides you like, oh, sorry, not 1000, sorry, right? Let's say 5000, 500, right? What happens?
Yeah, exactly. Both the if statements will run, but we'll get discount based on like 10% of it, so it will be like 50.
Yeah, exactly. So 500, right? See, both discounts are given, right? The 25% as well as the 10%, right? Both discounts are available, right? What's the reason? Since now these are not, this is not else if, right? This is not else if. Give me a minute, give me a second, sorry. Um, this is not the right. So this is not else if, right? That means this is not like a single unit, right? So this is the most important thing, that these two are independent if conditions. They are not bounded together since it's not else if. So if it is else if, only, I mean, only if the first condition is false, then the second one will be checked. If it is else if, but not else if here. These are two independent if conditions. So this will be checked and this will be also checked. There's no any requirement to check this only if this is false. No. Okay. So if you enter 500, yes, this is satisfied, and this is again a separate if condition. This also satisfied. That's why you are going to give, right? Get two discounts here, right? So my point here, that if you have else if else, or if you have if else, these are considered as a single unit. Only one conditional statement, either this one will be executed. Here, this one or this one or this one, not and. But here, this can be also executed. There's a possibility. These are, since they are like checked as independent conditions, right? Okay, so that's the thing that we are going to cover today. Those are the things that we are going to cover today. And tomorrow, what we are going to do is we will discuss about functions and loops. Functions and loops, and also we are going to move on to the topic called Python modules, right? So functions, loops, and Python modules we are going to discuss tomorrow, right? Okay, so any questions from your side before winding up? Yes, any questions from your side? Any doubt, any errors in your code that you are getting? Any doubt, any concern, any errors in your codes? Okay, so thank you very much. Right, thank you very much for the feedbacks. So we will be, as I mentioned, we will be move on to very advanced things, right? These are just, I just want to like get you familiarized with these things, right? Okay, so since you don't have any questions, it seems, right? So we will stop the session from here, conclude the session. But tomorrow onwards, we are going to move on to very advanced topics like image processing, data visualization, data handling, machine learning. So like be prepared with these contents, right? So try to go through the contents again, and tomorrow onwards, let's do real stuff, right? Thank you very much and have a good night. Let's meet on tomorrow. Yes, you will get the recorded session today itself.